Hey everybody, it's Kathy, Crowder's Mountain, North Carolina. We're back for another video, and this one is the second video in our series that we're doing about tips and techniques and all that, everything to do with drawing your barn quilt and painting it. So today we're going to prep the wood, and I'll show you how I do it. And that's what this series is about. How the best techniques and tricks and tips that I found in my journey. So first thing we've got to do is to prep the board before we can start working on it. And you know, in the last video we decided that MDO was our favorite kind, or my favorite kind of wood. So what I do first, now this comes in 4x8 sheets. Now the place I get mine from will cut it for me if I tell them ahead of time that I want it cut. I order it and then say, okay, will you cut it? And they'll tell me about what time to come when they call me and tell me it's there. And they're not that busy, so during that particular day and time, so they will cut it for me. So I'm really blessed for that, because we don't have a saw here. Okay, so the first thing that I do, once I get my size board, this is going to be a 2x2. That's the one we'll be working on, but you can get it cut in any length you want it to, or you can cut it if you know how. But I just take a sanding block, and you could take sandpaper, or I don't know about one of those hand sanders. That might be too strong. I would eat my board up with it. But anyway, I just take this little hand sander and go around it. And I'm knocking off any kind of little edges. The saw might have, you probably didn't hear that. I'm knocking off any little edges that the saw might have left on the wood, because you want a smooth surface when you're working. So I'm just going to make sure there's nothing on here that's going to make a ridge or anything. I would usually have this over on my table, and it's a little bit easier to do, but I've got you set up right here at this camera, and I don't want to move you. Y'all know that's that little piece that I showed you in the last video that popped up. Alright, after I do that, oh, whew, this resin kill you. Okay, after I sand it down good, I'm taking a damp cloth and I'm just going around it, so that way I can get any kind of residue off of it that was left by the sanding, because you don't want grit on it. This is the side that this particular piece has this overlay, paper overlay on it on both sides. And you know, that paper is not only, the layers are pressure treated with heat and resin, but this paper overlay has resin in it too. So I'm not sure if you have heard me say this or not, but I'm allergic to this resin. So I have to work kind of quick when I bring a sheet in from the potting shed, because it kills you. And it smells like a cow pasture. I don't mind cow pastures, but this would tear you up. Anyway, we'll let that dry just for a second. And while it's drying, I'll show you what I'm gonna put on it. So when it gets good and dry, I'm gonna put Kills 3. That's what I use. And it says it's premium, and it's interior and exterior primer. That's really important. Now I like this one. It says heavy duty high hide sealer and stain blocker. So it's got a sealer in it too. And then you can use it on wood and drywall, plaster, and all this stuff. And actually you can paint over it in an hour. So, you know, if you're doing 1 or 2 barn quilts, that's kind of important. If you're doing a dozen at a time you get back to that first one, it's done. But anyway, I really like how it goes on. And it works really well. Well, you know me and my Lole Vefe bottles. So I have already scratched off and painted over the words. But that's one of those bottles, and I put the Kills in it. And for me, I tried using like the roller pan, but then I would put too much in there, and I'd seal it up, but it'd still get hard on me. And so I decided, let me try this bottle. So it works real well in this bottle. I just squirt a little bit on here, and I'll show you. And then I'll take my roller and go over it. But as soon as this gets good dry, I'll be right back. I did want to mention to you that there's different kinds of Kills. You know, there's the one that comes in the blue and white can, and there's another one that's Kills too. But that one is the exterior premium, so I just want to make sure I get it sealed up good. All right, so let's start putting some Kills on this, and I'll show you how I do it. If I can get these gloves on. There you go, I think. I got them on. Have you ever tried to put them on and they rip on you? Okay. I showed you the bottle. Well, what I do with my rollers is I just wrap them up in plastic, like a plastic bag or something that seal up. And I've just got one for the back. It's got the gray. And then I've got one for the regular Kills. Now for the back, once that coat dries, I'll put the regular white Kills on the top, and on the back, and I just showed you this gray one. I tinted some of that Kills with some gray. It was a darker gray, but it wouldn't matter, I don't think. But gray, it just goes with everything, so I always paint the back. I seal it with the Kills, but it's got a little tint to it, like a different color. Typically I do 2 coats of that. I'll do one, and then I'll paint my barn quilt, and then I'll do another coat on the back, because I usually stick my hands on it, and I've got fingerprints on the bottom of my barn, on the back side of the barn quilt. No matter what I do, I end up doing that all the time. Anyway, that just gets rid of any of my boo-boos on the back. Makes it look polished and finished. Okay. Let me wipe the top of that off. See, I've not been doing a very good job of keeping that clean, have I? So, what I do, I just squirt a little bit out, not a lot. And then I'll just start rolling it on there. Now you might say, well, a tray would do better. And it might, but this works for me. And I like it this way. But you don't have to do it that way. I used to put this on with the roller. Not with a roller, that's what I'm doing now. I used to put it on with a brush. And you know what? That works just fine. This roller seems like it works better. Now I'm not going to forget my sides now. Uh-oh. That's why I put a puppy pad down sometimes. I just globbed it all over my countertop, but you know what? This thing's probably got 10 coats of paint on it already. One more won't hurt when it gets too bad. Now, you know, if you were doing like an 8x8 or something, or if you did a lot of barn quilt, this little bottle thing probably wouldn't work out for you. But if you're doing them like I'm doing, once a week for videos, or more if, you know, when somebody wants me to paint them one. I don't go out and like market and search for people to buy barn quilts from me, but when I do, when somebody asks me to paint one, I will. And I enjoy that. But, you know, we're fortunate there's enough folks out there that really are making their living doing this. And there's some really fine folks that are very, very talented. So, you see how I'm taking that roller and going around the sides? And now what? I'll show you something else in a minute. Whoops. Alright. Now, you saw what I did. Now, you can either paint the sides first, but don't forget to go around the edges and get rid of those ridges that roller could have just caused. You know how the paint will flip up on top of your board. You don't want those ridges on there. Okay, whew. I know y'all glad that's over, I am. Now to let that dry, and I can flip it over and put the sealer on the back, and I'll show you that. Okay, the front of our barn quilt with the plain white quills is finished, it's dried, and what I do is flip it over and I put the quills on the back that I've tinted gray. And I do the same thing with it. I just squirt it out and just paint it. And I'm just making very careful that I get all the way to the ends. And I don't remember if I told you this or not, but I usually just put one coat on here to start with. And here's why. While I'm painting, you see my hands, I always stick them under here when I'm painting to flip it around. And I'm so messy, I usually have paint on my hands. So by the time I get through with this barn quilt, there'll be fingerprints around the edges in places. Or I may have gotten a little bit too much paint when I was painting the sides. And so I always wait and paint the second coat after I'm finished with the barn quilt. You know, you have to be careful. You don't want to get any of this gray on the front of the barn quilt. But you typically don't have to, you don't have to paint the sides again because you've done that while you were painting your barn quilt. You just have to be careful that you don't get so much of the gray on when you're doing your second coat. You don't want to get so much of the gray that it runs down the sides. You know, that would not look good. So I'm finishing this one up, and the next one in this series will be about choosing your patterns, like where to find patterns, how to figure out how to draw your patterns, and all like that. So, thank you for joining this video, and I hope you like this series and you're getting benefits from it. And click the bell for notifications and when I upload a video, and if you would hit like, and if you hadn't subscribed, I hope you'll do that too. And I'll see you in the next video.